Jorginho is among the substitutes, weren't necessarily expecting that. Calafiori as well, Trossard left out of the team tonight. And Matthew Upson sitting next to me, Arsenal and England central defender, played in the Champions League for Arsenal, watching the Arsenal captain, Odegaard, who can't bring that ball down, and now Vitinha is able to take it away and pass it actually behind Barcola, out onto the right wing. Barcola gets the ball under control, he's got Vitinha on the overlap, but he goes back to Hakimi, and then Hakimi back towards the halfway line. And these Paris Saint-Germain supporters, Matt, they're just going to be, this is an anxious 45 minutes, watching their clocks as the cross comes over from Hakimi all the way across the Arsenal area, and counting down the time to when they can say that they've done it and they're through to the Champions League final in Munich.
Yeah, I mean, such is the confidence and the work rate in this PSG team. I'm not sure if they are going to have a nervous 45 minutes, John. I mean, I think they're already a little bit in that celebratory mode, you'd feel, and the stadium's now starting to jump. They're all in unison. There's a chant going round, and I think they're just thoroughly enjoying this situation.
Foul on Marino, so it's a free kick to Arsenal. Might be interested to know, as John Cross from the Daily Mirror was telling me, you know the famous song 1-0 to the Arsenal? Yeah. John says it was actually invented here in this stadium when Arsenal played PSG in the Cup Winners' Cup semi-final back in 1994. It was 1-0 to Arsenal at half-time. They were playing the Pet Shop Boys, Go West, and the Arsenal fans, and there'd been a series of 1-0 wins during that season in Europe, and at the time George Graham's Arsenal, and it was taken on from there. But tonight, unfortunately for Arsenal, it's 1-0 to the PSG. Free kick is taken long after that foul on Marino, but Martinelli is dispossessed, and Paris Saint-Germain in the mainly blue kit with the red and blue stripe down the middle burst away forward. Barcola, but Saliba comes across forward towards Rice, then back to Odegaard just inside his own half, and then all the way back to Kivior in the middle of Arsenal territory. They're playing from left to right in the second half. Kivior passing it forward again to Lewis Skelly, and the teenager, as he loves to do, uses his body to hold off João Neves, and Arsenal with Partey, a pass forward which is taken down by Timber, who's in a well-advanced position, down the line to Saka, but there's Kvaratskhelia tackling back on Saka, and it's the Georgian for Paris Saint-Germain who's come out with the ball against the England international.
Oh, that's brilliant. That really is brilliant. I mean, I really noticed it in that first half, how hard he was working, and not just the hard work. When he gets there, he then engages, and he's actually a good tackler. He gets in and around the feet of Saka, who hasn't really been able to build any momentum on Arsenal's right-hand side and create as much as what you'd like from him. But I think a lot of it is down to the left-back he's playing against is outstanding, and Kvaratskhelia is just as good when he gets in those defensive positions.
Yes, we saw a little group of Georgians, didn't we, outside the Parc des Princes just before we came into the stadium. Here, presumably, very proud of the star man, 4 times Georgian Footballer of the Year. I suspect he might win it a few more times as well.
I think he's got a chance.
Here's Saka through the middle, and he's leaned into by Nuno Mendes. That's no free kick. Saka's stayed down, clutching his right leg. PSG in possession, but they don't go gung-ho, they don't need to. And actually, Hakimi says, I'm going to put this out of play. So Saka can be looked at.
Yeah, I didn't quite see what the issue was there. I mean, the referee hasn't bought any of these situations. I mean, he's let the game flow quite nicely, I think. I mean, there's been a little bit of contact and maybe a few fouls that could have been given, but I just looked at the replay. I think Saka just got his leg caught between Mendes' legs, and that's maybe why he's just got that knock.
Yeah, he's okay. They're not going to call the physio on, so he's back on his feet. Bukayo Saka. See, Alexander Chefering, the UEFA president, is here. Just glanced at the little screen here. I think he's sitting next to the PSG president, Nasser Al-Khelaifi. It's 2011 that Qatar first bought into Paris Saint-Germain, and some of the managers that they've had, some of the coaches, and you know, first and foremost, the target is to win the Champions League. They win the French league almost every year, 4 in a row now, 11 in the last 13 years. The Champions League is the big target, and here João Neves winning the ball back for PSG. Then the challenge comes in, good one as well by Partey, then puts the tackle in on Doué. Now that's a sturdy challenge by Timber. It's given us a free kick to Paris Saint-Germain, and Timber reacts going down onto his knees, flops down onto the pitch with his hands in a praying type.
Yeah,
looked like a foul to me.
He threw himself down like a tantruming 3-year-old, if I can spit it out. He really did go flat on his front, onto his knees. He wins a good chunk of the ball, which is why his reaction was so extreme. But I must say,
he slid through it.
Yeah, he went straight through, and I think the referee, just for the follow, the ball kind of glanced off him, but the main bulk and chunk of the contact was with the player, which is why he blew for the foul.
This is a free kick, not too far away from the position where PSG scored their goal in the first half. Vitinha's waiting to take this. Mikel Arteta looks anxious. Vitinha swings it in, but that's nothing like the delivery in the first half. Curls it into the gloves of Raya, who's able to catch it quite comfortably. 5 Live BBC Sounds. Listen as well tomorrow night to hear what it sounds like in Bodo. Bodo Glimt, the team with the slash in their title, playing Tottenham in the second leg of their Europa League semi-final. So live from Bodo tomorrow night. We're in Paris tonight. Sports Extra tomorrow night for the commentary on Manchester United. Here, Arsenal in possession. VE Day as well tomorrow, and you'll hear coverage of that all day on 5 Live. As the ball bounces away off Marino and out of play near the halfway line.
Sounds right up your street, a bit of Bodo. I can see you strolling around there and enjoying the culture.
I am very, very jealous of them. I would love to have been able to make that trip.
Yeah.
Raya, long pass from him downfield. Saka can't keep it in, and it's out of play for a throw-in to PSG. However, I think we'll cope here in the fashionable Boulogne-Billancourt area of Paris, where cashmere is always acceptable. Just looking down the most well-heeled sit down in front of us. There's some wonderfully coiffured hair in the 5 or 6 rows that I'm looking down on.
It's a lovely
French
part.
hairdressers, of course.
Yeah, it's a lovely part of Paris, actually, isn't it? I mean, you like I say, it's a real sporting kind of corner, isn't it? With Longchamp as well, the racing track and all the other sporting.
Partey has caught in possession on the halfway line, and Arsenal have got men back, and PSG. And so that's another part of this second half. You know, this is so big for Paris Saint-Germain, and this is mainly a young team, and they talk about it all of the time. You know, whether the pressures will come into it, but there's no pressure here. Nuno Mendes pouring forward from left back, playing it across. Doué turns and shoots goalwards, opened his body, very Lamine Yamal-like actually, on the other side of the penalty area. Quick play, opened his body, but steered the shot well wide actually.
Well, this PSG left side, it's the best in world football. It really is. I mean, the quality and the speed they have between them, Mendes and Kvaratskhelia, is just blistering, and that with the intelligence, the work ethic, the quality, it literally has everything, this left-hand side, and it's been such a challenging tie for Bukayo Saka to get in the game, understandably, because you're up against 2 players that are very, very difficult to get on top of.
Best left flank in world football.
I think so at the moment. I don't think there's a better one. Not that I've seen this season.
When Luis Enrique won the Champions League, when he was coach of Barcelona, we had Suarez and Messi and Neymar, but here's Barcola carrying the ball into the area. Still Barcola, puts his foot on the ball, little pass, chipped across the goal by Vitinha, and that's easily chested back by Timber to goalkeeper Raya. Almost 10 minutes played in the second half, and I must say now, it does feel as though that first 20-25 minutes of this match, before Ruiz gave PSG the lead, and they could have scored before then as well, but I think particularly the first 20 minutes, if it doesn't go for Arsenal tonight, which it's not doing with this scoreline, that's where they've lost it.
When you play as well as what they did and you get nothing for it, it hurts you. It takes a chunk out of you, you feel, and then you're dealing with the quality on the counter and the, you know, hitting the post and then the goal, and all of a sudden it's like a sinking feeling. So Arsenal have got to dig in deep here. They're still in, you know, in this match. They have to work hard. If they can just get anything, it might just make that last piece of this game a little bit difficult for PSG.
Raya, long free kick forward to the edge of the area. Marino jumps for it, but it bounces through and is cleared away to the halfway line, where Barcola is in a bit of a tangle there with Lewis Skelly, who's fouled him, says referee Zvaya, and that's a yellow card for the Arsenal teenager, Lewis Skelly.
Yeah, nothing worse than when you're waiting for the ball to come down and you've got a player that's got momentum coming onto it, and he's just in a difficult position there, Lewis Skelly. He loves to just stick his body between the man and the ball. That's his go-to all the time. And Barcola read it, got round him, and then he had to pull him down.
1-0 to Paris Saint-Germain, 2-0 on aggregate. Nuno Mendes goes down, no free kick. Kvaratskhelia is in possession of the ball with his wispy beard and his white strapping on his wrist, turns, goes down. It's taken on though by Vitinha. Excellent footwork from Vitinha. Still going Vitinha, and it's clipped across via a deflection, but caught by Raya stretching high. What a piece of play that was by the Portuguese number 17.
Of course, some twinkle toes that one. A lovely lift at the start to lift the ball down the line over the outstretched leg of Timber, and then the footwork going into the box was really, really magical.
Yes, he didn't have the best of times by any means at Wolves when he was there. You know, he didn't play enough. He came in and spoke to us at the Emirates last week, and he was talking about how, looking back, that was very important and good for him. But I think the meaning there was, I didn't really enjoy it very much. Here's Odegaard, forward to Saka. Now Arsenal could be interested. Saka with a shot from the angle, but Nuno Mendes puts a foot out and blocks it behind, wider than near post. Corner Arsenal, though. It's
almost the best outcome Arsenal could have, you know. Mendes 1v1, you're not going to get too much change out of him, but if Saka can keep winning these set plays, if Arsenal can keep putting the ball in the box as many times as they can, probability says something's going to drop at some point.
Corner then. One of Arsenal's big strengths over the course of the last couple of seasons. No Gabriel at the moment, though. One of the main dangers. However, there are still dangers there. Little steps from Saka. In comes the corner, and it's pushed up and over the top by Donnarumma. It was dropping in, but Donnarumma, 6'5", was able to reach up and just push it over the top of the bar. Second corner.
Yeah, comfortable, wasn't it? I mean, he gets too much curl on the ball there, Saka. He wants to set that a little bit further out near the 6-yard box line.
Saka again then. Second right-sided corner in a row. In it goes on Donnarumma. Came off an Arsenal head, even though the goalkeeper went for it. Mikel Merino's claiming that the final touch was off a PSG body, but referees via well-positioned says goal kick.
Yeah, decent ball in and good flick. Just everyone had gone into the middle of the box and nobody drifted out. Somebody just pulled onto the back post area. There was a simple header in an empty net, but there was completely empty of any player.
Yeah, I think the final touch was off Timber. You can see that now. So goal kick, referee got it right. Goal kick to Paris Saint-Germain, just over half an hour to play. PSG half an hour from going to Munich. Arsenal half an hour from going out. It would be a fourth defeat out of 4 for Mikel Arteta in 2-legged semi-finals as the Arsenal manager. How's your look? Saka is bundled over.
Has to be a foul.
Yeah, he's fallen off the pitch, but it's a free kick to Arsenal on the right-hand side. Odegaard runs off the pitch. Arsenal just need to, however they do it, just find a way through, find a way past Donnarumma.
Yeah, that isn't a good decision from Pacho. That doesn't need to give that foul away. Really clumsy, smashes into the back of Saka right on the touchline. He's going nowhere. Now Martin Odegaard can place the ball, and this is a lovely angle for him, John, with his left foot, just to whip this one in.
The Arsenal captain, with his left foot, waits to deliver this. He has created 3 goals in the last 4 matches. Odegaard plays it in, Donnarumma comes, gets a good punch on that. Well out of the penalty area. Barcola just heads it back to Fabian Ruiz, the scorer of the only goal tonight, the man who scored the goal in the first leg. Ousmane Dembele only on the bench for PSG this evening, the 33-goal top scorer, but they've not needed him so far, as Timber on the right wing wins a throw-in. Arsenal are building a little bit of pressure here. Timber wins the throw-in, just looking to see if Partey is going to come and take the long one, but he's not. Maybe just a little too far up the line.
I think he is.
Oh no, here he is. He is coming. Yeah,
they have to.
Well, and also they have caused problems with it.
Yeah, they have to. I mean, in open play, at the moment it's hard to see where the goals are going to come from with Arsenal. I mean, that has been a big problem of theirs this season, but they have a chance with these long throws.
Here it goes. We're right behind the line of it. The throw is headed away on the edge of the box. Saliba, though, is able to steer it back out to Partey. Partey beats the jumping Doué, then plays it back to the edge of the area. Timber back to Partey. Partey, right-footed across the box, but right into the path of Pacho, who is able to clear away for Paris Saint-Germain. Arsenal come again. Saliba's crossed this time, right away to the far side of the penalty area. Marino backing away. Turns. Oh, and he's got it all wrong. He's passed it behind Martinelli and all the way through for a goal kick. And you can hear what that's done to the PSG supporters who like us, were watching. Arsenal have a spell there, but it's gone.
And what was it like? It was really good foundations, good movement, technique, all the rest, but without that final piece at the end. And until they find that somewhere, PSG are going to feel relatively comfortable, because while they might have those moments where they're under pressure, I don't think they really feel massively threatened that Arsenal are going to score.
No. It feels now like it's not going to go Arsenal's way, but I've sat and watched enough surprise turnarounds in my life to not give this one up just yet. No. And it is incredible how it can change, and the mood of a match can change so quickly. But I'm not stacking my house on this happening tonight. Here is Hakimi playing the ball out to the far side. João Neves, that's a heavy touch from him, out of play for a throw. Miles Lewis-Skelly takes this, hurls it down the line. This is for Martinelli to chase, and across comes Marquinhos to put it out of play. Marquinhos was one of the goal scorers when PSG won their only previous victory in a Champions League semi-final. And if you remember, that was back in the COVID year in 2020, when it was a one-off semi-final against Leipzig. So PSG have never won a two-legged Champions League semi-final. That's what they're trying to do tonight. Last season they lost both legs 1-0. This season they're winning both legs 1-0. Long throw though for Partey. Bounces out to the edge of the penalty area. Timber couldn't get there. Then Doué is barged off the ball by Odegaard. I'm surprised that wasn't given as a free kick. Fabian Ruiz has been able to clear it away downfield. Saliba's got to be careful. Saliba might be in danger of losing out to Barcola, but in the end he's managed to draw the foul from Barcola. They don't like it in the stands of the Parc des Princes, but Arsenal now, already the urgency is there. Quick free kick, played forward. Rice gets it back. Rice's ball across, deflected right across, beyond the far posts. Saka dropped behind it. Saka, then back to Timber. Timber gives it back to Saka. Saka now onto his left foot, curls it goalwards. Oh! What a save again from Donnarumma. I thought that was bound for the top corner. I thought that was beating the big man, but he threw out one of those arms, fingertips again, round the top corner.
Oh, what a save. And what a hit from Saka. We've been asking for an Arsenal player to produce something a bit special. That was it from Bukayo Saka. For the first time in the game, he gets himself a couple of yards away from Mendes. He whips it with his left foot, and what a fingertip save with the right hand from Donnarumma. It's gone in the top corner.
Rice with the corner, deep to the back post. Partey tried to get there, defender was in the way, comes out to Saka, he goes down, threw himself down. Kvaratskhelia tells him what he thinks of him. Meanwhile, PSG are off on the counter-attack. It's Hakimi who's taking the ball down the left wing, but they're not going gung-ho. Doué, though, says, give it to me, and then he gives it back to Hakimi, and Hakimi shoots, and Raya's able to go down to his right. Took a little deflection, but Raya was able to field it down to his right.
Yeah, gave it the ball a nasty little bit of movement there, didn't it? You know, one of those ones that you can see squirm under the arms of goalkeepers. He did quite well there, David Raya, to get solid forearms behind that ball. It was a tricky save, but, you know, PSG, for that breakaway there, John, like you mentioned, they didn't really go for the throat, did they? You know, there's a feeling now that we're comfortable. You know, we've got 2 goals, we're in control. If we can break forward, then great, but if not, no problem, we'll just keep the ball and run the time down.
Pacho steps forward, stabs it away. William Pacho, the Ecuadorian central defender, he's good, isn't he? 23 years old. Arsenal again in possession on the left-hand side. Saka, the latest to have been denied by Donnarumma. Saka must be thinking, what do I have to do to beat Donnarumma? Remember the Euros final? And here he is now. He's popped up on the left-hand side, Bukayo Saka, trying to come in field, but well defended. Excellent midfield play from João Neves, who got in there, won the ball against Saka. Then he's fouled by Marino.
The referee's just signaling to go to the screen,
suggesting that he is going to be called to the screen.
Yeah. What was that about?
And there is a potential penalty check. So this, I'm guessing, well, it would have to be for an Arsenal penalty because the ball's not been in the
surely not the
PSG penalty.
The Saka swan dive that we kind of just we brushed that off as if it was a.
Well, and the you know what this means? Usually, when the referee is called across by the VAR, who is Bastian Dankert,
it's a handball against Arsenal.
Oh, it was when Hakimi went for goal. It was when Hakimi shot for goal, and it did say it deflected off Lewis Skelly, and a penalty has been awarded by Felix Zvaya.
Wow.
And Miles Lewis Skelly was twisting his body, and I think he's a little unfortunate there for that to be given as a handball against him.
I would say a little unfortunate. His
hand is just... the arm is at right angles.
Yeah, but
I mean, he's twisted his body.
But in Europe, we're miles off being reasonable with these handball situations. You know, the Premier League's gone so far in actually applying a little bit of rationale and common sense to the situation that the player's in. There's no thought for the situation that Lewis Skelly's in. Is his arm away from his body? Yes, but he's trying to break, change direction and block a shot at the same time. Your arms are not going to be down your side like a penguin, so they're going to be free-flowing in that natural movement. He smashes the ball from 2 yards away from him. How on earth is he supposed to get his arm or hand out the way and to get penalised? Very similar to the game away at Inter that Arsenal had in the Champions League this year. A ridiculous handball.
Marino,
this is just another one, and it's needless. I mean, for VAR to call that back, to think that there's a clear and obvious error from the referee in that decision, I find ludicrous. I think it's a total misuse of what VAR is there for.
It's the kind of decision that is given in European competitions.
Yeah, but it's ridiculous. And if the referee gives it on field even, I would be upset with it. But for the VAR to bring it back and say there's a clear problem here, it's just ridiculous.
Well, Arsenal need David Raya here. Remember his penalty save against Atalanta in the league phase of the competition. A brilliant double save from Retegui. Well, he's going to face Vitinha, the little Portuguese midfielder. So it's a penalty as Arsenal have made a change. Trossard has come on and Calafiori. So Lewis Skelly and Martinelli have been substituted. Meanwhile, here is the moment that could clinch it for Paris Saint-Germain. Vitinha stands right behind the ball on the edge of the area. Little steps forward, a crouching motion. He walks up to the ball and then Raya saves it down to his left. Pushes it away. Not the most firmly hit penalty you've ever seen. I think he was hoping that Raya was going to commit himself, but Raya keeps it out, and it's still 1-0 on the night, 2-0 on aggregate, and Arsenal are still just about alive.
Wow, that was a bizarre approach to the ball. It was like he was trying to creep up on it, John. Tiptoeing.
I almost felt like saying, if you go down to the woods today.
It had that feel. It was a really poor penalty. I mean, I don't quite know what that was, but then, like you say, there's no power. You've got no momentum coming into the ball because you're creeping up on it. And then no power, and David Raya holds his nerve really well, actually. It is in the corner, so he has to really get across to his left-hand side, but good save.
So Arsenal have changed their left flank, and now Dembele is on. Ousmane Dembele coming on for the last 20 minutes. Went off injured, the man who scored the goal in the first leg. The top scorer, 33 goals this season, 28 in his last 28 appearances. That's not bad. And it's a PSG corner after the Raya penalty save. And corner from the right-hand side. 1-0 on the night, 2-0 on aggregate. PSG going through. Here is the corner, though, to the near post, headed away for Arsenal. And then nodded to the man who's just had his penalty save, Vitinha, who, with his right foot, brings Dembele into the game for the first time, who wins a throw-in off Timber. So Barcola making way for Dembele. So I think if that had gone in, I think you'd have heard that all around Paris, the cheer outside the ground. But instead, David Raya has kept Arsenal in it. And as you said, Matt, you do feel for Arsenal and Lewis Skelly being pulled up for that. But here's Calafiori, back from injury, not played in the last 10 matches. Calafiori into the penalty area, but overruns it, and PSG are able to clear it away, and actually might be able to break away up the right-hand side. So with Barcola being substituted, Doué was over there on the right-hand side. Hakimi's now bursting forward as well. Doué turns on the edge of the box. That was well defended, though, for Arsenal by Saliba, who passes it to Trossard, who's onto the field now. Trossard having started the last 4 matches, but on the substitutes bench tonight. Back to Partey. Time now very much beginning to run out for Arsenal. We're in the last 20 minutes. 71 minutes played. Arsenal with Bukayo Saka, who forced the best save of the second half from Donnarumma. He's in contention to be man of the match again. The PSG goalkeeper into the centre circle. It is with Kivior. Kivior he's given it away, passed it behind Odegaard, so Kvaratskhelia was able to pick up possession of the ball and now glides forward in that way that he does, the Georgian number 7, and then pulls it back to the edge of the box. Not cleared by Partey. Hakimi! Right foot! Bottom corner! The right back has clinched it surely for Paris Saint-Germain. That's finished the semi-final. Surely it has. And it's finished off Arsenal as well. Mikel Arteta stands with his arms crossed. 2-0 on the night, 3-0 on aggregate. PSG are bound for Munich.
Well, this place has just erupted. They know they're home and dry, and Arsenal are out of this game. The body language, the dejected look on the players says it all. I mean, it was a tired piece of defending, and Arsenal have put so much into this game. They really have. They've run their socks off, and PSG now in a position where they can just exploit those little holes. And it's Hakimi with a lovely sweeping right-footed finish. It really is a well-taken goal. Kvaratskhelia gets the ball wide. Arsenal don't quite deal with it, but and then it's a bit tired. Kivior doesn't get out to the ball. Saliba's a little bit deep, and it just allows Hakimi the space and time, 18 yards out, to wrap his foot around it. But what he does, he whips it beautifully around Saliba, and it nestles right in the bottom of the far corner, just hits the inside, grazes the inside of the side netting, probably about 2 or 3 inches inside the post. Beautiful finish with his right foot.
And Luis Enrique with a 2-0 lead on the night, 3-0 on aggregate. Luis Enrique immediately says, right, let's be having one of those forwards off. Doué's off, and Lucas Hernandez, the French international, is coming on, the number 21. So he's playing on the left-hand side of the defence, which I guess means, what, 3 central defenders now for PSG? Yeah. Nuno Mendes playing as the left wing back.
Yeah, I think that probably looks the likely setup,
or indeed Nuno Mendes just playing further forward.
I think he's gone further forward in that position, and Hernandez will go to left back. But, you know, what a scoreline to keep a clean sheet at the moment against Arsenal. I mean, Donnarumma has been hugely influential in that, but Paris in full control of this tie now, and the supporters are just enjoying themselves.
Yeah, and again, you know, it's not a new conversation. We'll be talking about Arsenal and it being another one of those games where they couldn't find the goals that they needed. That's, you know, the draws that they've had in the Premier League. 13 draws in the Premier League this season.
Yeah, I mean, you've got no centre forward on the pitch, and, you know, Martinelli's not in a big goal-scoring form. Saka weighs in with a good haul of goals most season, but, you know, they have to work incredibly hard and get incredibly creative in order to get that goal tally up. And, you know, there's been a few little mistakes started to creep in as well. They've conceded a lot from set plays in the last 10 games, and Saliba's making a few little errors with the ball, and just a few things that have crept into the game that have added to this situation. But, you know, it's been a difficult season for Arsenal, and this game is maybe just that one game too far after brilliant performances against Madrid.
So 2-0 on the night. Fabian Ruiz in the first half, and the excellent Achraf Hakimi, the former Real Madrid and Inter man.
Yeah.
So up against his former club in the final he will be, and he's produced some great moments as Trossard wins the ball back from Marquinhos, and here's Saka. Saka's in, and Saka scores. And Arsenal have got a goal back with 15 minutes to play. Marquinhos is saying that he was fouled by Trossard. Referee's not interested, and Saka finally has been able to get the ball in the net past Donnarumma. 2-1 on the night now, 3-1 on aggregate.
From where I'm sat, I think the referee makes an excellent call. It's a gutsy call as well, because everything's screaming to say this is a foul, but for me, Marquinhos, he knows Trossard's behind him, and he just puts the brakes on and then falls on top of the ball, like so many players do, and the referee just instantly gives a foul. And he doesn't, because he reads it and thinks, well, you're trying to buy that foul. Is there contact and a bit of a shove from Trossard? Yes, there is, but not enough to fall over. He thinks he can just fall on the ball and the referee will give him the foul, and he doesn't. Then it just ends up in the box. There's loads of movement. Saka's running across. Donnarumma gets the save or a block, or maybe it was a Hakimi, and then it's a simple tap in just from 3 yards out into an empty net for Saka, and Arsenal are on the score sheet.
2-1 on the night, 3-1 on aggregate. There was a very handy deflection actually from the Trossard pass off Pacho, which took it to Saka, with Donnarumma going down. Here's another ball in, and Saka in the middle couldn't get his head to it as Lucas Hernandez actually came across, and suddenly there's a little bit of concern here in the PSG defence. Donnarumma coming out, and he's asking questions. He's saying, what's going on here? You know, they very nearly had another goal there, Arsenal.
Well, he's losing his rag with Kvaratskhelia. He really has had a go at him, and he's kind of pointed to himself going, what, me? And Donnarumma's going, yeah, you. He wasn't happy with the intensity in which he got after the ball and stopped Arsenal developing something down the left-hand side.
So Bukayo Saka means Arsenal are on the board as João Neves fires the ball forward, but the referee's going to bring it back for the PSG free kick halfway inside their own half. So Bukayo Saka becomes the first Arsenal player to score in a semi-final since Nicolas Pepe scored with a penalty against Villarreal in 2021 in the Europa League semi-final. So that run of 6 semi-final matches without scoring a goal, that is over. However, I think the phrase that we'll probably use is too little, too late.
Well,
however,
you did say
still
earlier,
got 12 minutes to play.
You said earlier, these games can turn
and
quickly.
PSG have given it away, and Rice now to Odegaard, and Odegaard with a flick into the path of Pacho of PSG, who's able to just belt it away to the halfway line.
It was a good situation. They turned the ball over in a really dangerous area. Martin Odegaard tried a clever little back heel flick through, and Pacho, who has just covered that back line so well. He's such a tough player to get around. He just seems to read the line of the ball and get blocks, stops little pathways through.
There are jitters here for PSG. Saka's now playing centrally, and here they come again. Trossard back towards the halfway line. You know, this is the pressure. These are the nerves jangling of a team that, you know, a few moments ago thought the job was done. Calafiori through. Saka! Oh, the chance! Saka's put it over the bar. Calafiori's cross. Donnarumma came for it, didn't get there. And behind him, Saka couldn't direct the shot under the crossbar. Open goal, over the top.
I can't believe he's missed it. He can't believe he's missed it. Sat on the floor with his hands on top of his head. He knows this was a massive chance. I mean, he's just got to take the pace off it a little bit and get his upper body over the ball and caress it. Any kind of touch that's underneath the crossbars in the back of the net is flashed across. Brilliant ball in. Donnarumma's at full stretch. He doesn't get there. It goes past the goalkeeper. Saka arrives. He's been in that area, like you said, John, centrally or in the back post every time the play's developing down the left. And he just can't keep the effort down under the crossbars. It would just be in the back of the net, and wow, that would set up the last 10-15 minutes of this game brilliantly.
The jitters are on here for Paris Saint-Germain, and there, in the space of maybe 2 or 3 minutes, Arsenal scored one and could have scored 2 more. Here's Timber coming forward, gets up, loses out. And Nuno Mendes is going to play the ball out to Kvaratskhelia, who's over there on the right-hand side. Hakimi's making a run through the middle again. That's typical them. Kvaratskhelia, though, keeps running and then finds the pass to Fabian Ruiz. And then Dembele with a shot. Raya's able to parry it. Pushed it away, back into the penalty area. Comes back to Dembele. And then there's a foul on João Neves, centrally by Merino. We saw the waving of the imaginary yellow card from little Neves when he was sitting on the ground. But it's a free kick, no more than that.
Well, that needs a yellow card for him then, doesn't it? It should be anyway. I mean, the big difference in this game, when Paris come forward like that, you feel like they're manufacturing slicker, better goal-scoring opportunities than what Arsenal have done. You know, they're getting these wide players on the ball, whichever ones are mixed up, the movements all interchanging, but then once they get their one or two passes off, they really do create a good bit of space and good opportunity, and you know, their clinical edge has been good in this game.
5 Live from the BBC. We're live here at the Parc des Princes. That's Matthew Upson. A little later on, we will, on BBC One, have the highlights, Champions League match of the day, the highlights of this match and tomorrow, last night, and they'll be on the iPlayer as well after 10 o'clock, so you can find the Champions League highlights there. And free kick for Paris Saint-Germain, which is taken short, and then the shot is fizzed in from probably 35 yards. So it was passed by Vitinha to Hakimi, who hit it well enough, but it was pulled away left of the goal and behind for a goal kick. Ben White's going to come on as well for Arsenal very shortly, and Timber probably did well to make this. And Mikel Arteta's frustrated because he wanted to make the substitution there. Arsenal through the middle, Merino, here's Declan Rice. Declan Rice had a little look there, he's onside. The cross hits Nuno Mendes, then back to Timber. Now Declan Rice again. Rice, a packed penalty area. Saliba to Partey. Now Odegaard. Odegaard holds off Nuno Mendes, and then the ball bounces away from Declan Rice, and Nuno Mendes is able to bring it forward and then hit a long crossfield pass. That's for Hakimi to chase. His energy is incredible, but he overhits that out of play, and it's a throw into Arsenal.
That was that steam train, isn't he, up and down the right? I mean, one minute he's back, and then he's halfway up the pitch, and then he's back again. I mean, he gets everywhere.
He was telling us yesterday about his nutritionist, Hakimi, and he's obviously feeding him the right stuff.
Yeah, well, what's he eating, John?
Well, he didn't tell us.
Didn't disclose.
No. Well, it's full of whatever it needs to be.
Yeah.
Raya, long downfield over the top of Saka, then Odegaard on the challenge with Vitinha. We've got the chaos that Arsenal needed, but PSG have got the lead that they need. 2-1 on the night, 3-1 on aggregate.
Well, Arsenal had the chance as well, though, didn't they? I mean, that from Saka should be in the back of the net. He should have 2 goals in this game. And also Donnarumma, the save he made from him with his left foot was absolutely outstanding. They've had their chances, Arsenal, in fairness. I mean, you have to take your hat off to the way they've gone about the game.
6 minutes to play, plus added time. Arsenal somehow have got to come up with 2 goals without reply. Ball is deflected out for a PSG throw. So Timber was replaced by Ben White. So White now operating at right back. And Arsenal with Saliba in possession. Long and forward from Calafiori. It's a long one. This is for Trossard to chase. Marquinhos comes out with the ball, excellently defended by the PSG captain, the Brazilian captain as well. Hakimi then allows João Neves to find Dembele, and Dembele's first-time pass will run to Hakimi. Hakimi right side of the box. Arsenal have got men back. Kvaratskhelia though in the area. It's now very congested in there as Kvaratskhelia takes it back out into the left-back area. And is being followed all the way out there by Saliba. He's trying to draw the foul. He's taking it towards the corner flag. Then he goes down, and then the ball has actually run for João Neves. Kvaratskhelia again has got Saliba all over him. The two of them fall off the pitch together. Calafiori it is, and actually it's just a goal kick that's been given as they square up to one another. Calafiori and the assistant has actually come onto the field to stand between them. and it's a yellow card for Calafiori, and also a yellow card for Kvaratskhelia.
Yeah, you can't square up in that fashion. I mean, the linesman is acting as a bouncer, trying to get his arm between them. He's like a boxing referee. They really are squaring up, and the referee comes over and gets the yellow card out for both players as it's just boiled over a little bit.
Less than 5 minutes. 5 minutes between Paris Saint-Germain and a second Champions League final. They reached that final, the COVID final in Lisbon against Bayern Munich. Hansi Flick's Bayern Munich. There's a foul centre field on Saka.
Yeah, I think it was dissent that from Saka. He felt that he was fouled and he got up and he really let the referee have it.
So and frustration for Saka.
Yeah,
said something to the referee. So a free yellow card for Bukayo Saka in a free kick. And Marquinhos down there, I can see him saying to Pacho and to Vitinha, just take as long as you can over this. Yeah. More substitutes are being beckoned forward, are called forward by Luis Enrique. It's Thomas Tuchel's PSG that lost in that Champions League final against Hansi Flick's Bayern Munich in Lisbon in 2020. They've had some of the managers who've come through and tried to do what Luis Enrique might be able to do next month. Ancelotti, Laurent Blanc was here for a long time, Unai Emery, of course, mentioned Thomas Tuchel, who got to the final, Mauricio Pochettino, and then Christophe Galtier was the most recent coach before Luis Enrique took over. And it really looks as though Luis Enrique has got everything for this PSG, for this club, pointing in the right direction, and it might well be enough to see them all the way to lifting the trophy. But as we know, Inter are going to be tough opponents with Inzaghi. Arsenal come forward again, needing 2 goals without reply just to take this to extra time. Gonçalo Ramos is going to be that substitute. The Portuguese striker, 15 goals from him this season. We saw him score against Manchester City, the clincher, didn't we, in the league stage, that important victory when they came from 2-0 down. That was when they were in danger of going out of the Champions League, remember, PSG.
I mean, unbelievable. Was it 15th they finished in the league phase? I mean, to then be in this situation where you're moments away from making the final just shows you the journey this team has been on this season, and that they're just a different team to what they were in October, November, and they're now a force to be reckoned with.
It's Nuno Mendes who's off, so Gonçalo Ramos is on. Long throw for Arsenal, again Partey, but that's headed back out, and he gets that down. Here's the cross in towards the back post. Ben White gets up with a header, but Lucas Hernandez did his job. There's high fives all around. Ben White could only had it wide and behind, and it's a goal kick to PSG. And Pacho says to the PSG supporters, get on your feet, and they do. All around the stadium, the 2 tiers under this immense concrete roof above our heads. They're on their feet, they've got their red, blue and white scarves, they're twirling them, they're singing their Paris Saint-Germain songs. They're nearly there. Just over a minute to play, just over a minute to go. Donnarumma, one of the men of the night, if not the man of the match. Donnarumma takes this goal kick, which comes off Gonçalo Ramos' head and is out of play. Mikel Arteta says, come on, let's get that ball back. They're not giving it up yet, of course. Need 2 goals without reply just to take this to extra time. Odegaard jumps with Vitinha, but it bounces down for Fabian Ruiz. He scored the opening goal tonight. Now Kvaratskhelia carrying the ball out towards the right-hand side. I wouldn't be surprised if he just keeps going with it down that right wing. He does. Rice is there. Calafiori puts in the challenge, takes the ball away from Kvaratskhelia, who gets up and roars to the crowd to make some noise over in that section as well. Kvaratskhelia, signed from Napoli in January, who might well win the Italian league ahead of Inter by the time we get to the Champions League final. I wonder if that means that he'll get 2 league championship winning medals this season. 5 minutes of added time running out for Arsenal and for Mikel Arteta.
I mean, it would be some league season if you got 2 championship winning medals and the Champions League winning medal, wouldn't
France, Italy and the Champions League.
That wouldn't be bad.
Yeah, and they've got to go off to the FIFA Club World Cup, of course, as well. In the summer, they're one of the teams that are in that. They're in a group with Atletico Madrid, Seattle Sounders and Botafogo. So we are into those 5 minutes of added time. And PSG playing the ball back towards the edge of the area. Again, if you just switched on tonight, the first 20 minutes tonight of this second leg were absolutely crucial. Arsenal were excellent in that spell, but couldn't get the goal. They couldn't find the goal to bring the tie back level. And Fabian Ruiz was able to sweep in a magnificent shot from the edge of the area to make it 1-0 on the night. That became 2-0, Hakimi's goal. Bukayo Saka got one back, but Arsenal now just minutes away from going out at the semi-final stage. With their second semi-final defeat of the season after Newcastle in the Carabao Cup. Ben White now into the penalty area. Ben White's cross, glanced by Marino, but wide at the far post with his head. 10 yards out, behind goal kick PSG. And Arsenal's players out there, the body language does tell you that they know the game is nearly up.
Yeah, 3 players arriving in the box. Because he checked onto his left foot there, Ben White, their momentum is then stationary when the ball comes in, and they can't get any power or purchase on the header to really trouble Donnarumma, and it ends up being a bit of a glancing flick from Marino that goes harmlessly wide, and they just haven't quite made enough of those situations they've got in this evening, Arsenal, certainly in and around when there's crosses come into the box.
5 Live Sport will be on air tonight until 10:30. We'll try and bring you some reaction from Mikel Arteta before 10:30. If not, it'll be on the Champions League debrief on the Football Daily feed on BBC Sounds. Here's Declan Rice. Declan Rice, in comes the challenge on him from Pacho. Then back to Partey. Odegaard on the right flank down near the corner flag. Odegaard back to Ben White, puts his foot on the ball. Infield towards Thomas Partey. Then back towards Saliba. Odegaard away from Lucas Hernandez. And then Thomas Partey. Then to the edge of the area. Declan Rice, the man against Real Madrid. And here's Trossard now, who finds some space, and Trossard shoots, but that's blocked inside the penalty area by João Neves, and out it goes for a throw-in over on the left-hand side that Arsenal will take. We've got just over 2 minutes of added time to play. Arsenal have to score twice. Kivior's now up there as well. It's Kivior who won the throw-in over on the far side. A throw-in, Partey to take this. Right up against the hoardings. Here's the long throw for Arsenal into the penalty area. A little flick, then it's poked by Trossard, but it just ran away, dribbled away from him, and Donnarumma just follows the ball and then flops down on it and then climbs to his feet. Marino turns away frustratedly. And I'll make it, we've got 90 seconds left, Matt.
Yeah, I think Thomas Partey's arms might be a bit sore tomorrow from the amount of throw-ins that he's had to sling into the PSG box to try and cause a bit of chaos. It hasn't quite had the effect where anything has dropped bar in that opening 15 minutes, and you've already alluded to it, John. It was crucial that something landed for Arsenal in that period, and it would have been possibly a different story.
Yes, the high for Arsenal was the quarter-final against Real Madrid. They're going out to this excellent Paris Saint-Germain team that Luis Enrique has moulded. This is his second season, already French champions. And it looks as though in the next few seconds, the whistle will go and send them to the Champions League final in Munich later this month. Donnarumma long and downfield. Raya's able to bring that down. It's 2-1 on the night, 3-1 on aggregate. Saliba, perhaps the final attack. We're in the last 30 seconds now. Here's one for Saka to chase into the area. Saka across, but Marquinhos also is able to win the ball, win the race to it against Marino, and he plonks it out of play down in front of us. Looking down the stand here in front of us, all of the PSG supporters, thousands of them now, all around the Parc des Princes with their scarves in the air. They're nearly there. Arsenal heading out Thomas Partey with the long throw. I think this will be the last action of the match. In comes the throw. There's the clearance from Vitinha. There's the final whistle. And Paris Saint-Germain have knocked out Arsenal in the semi-finals. Paris Saint-Germain are going to Munich. Arsenal are out. These two clubs with their big dreams of winning the Champions League, well, not this year for Mikel Arteta and Arsenal. And Luis Enrique is surrounded by his coaching staff. Luis Enrique, already a Champions League winner with Barcelona. Now he'll try and do what so many before him have failed to do with Paris Saint-Germain. He's got Inter and Filippo Inzaghi to get past in 3 weeks' time in the final. What a final that should be. But Arsenal players standing with hands on hips, looking at the turf, just like 16 years ago. Last time they were in a Champions League semi-final, it's ended in defeat. 2-1 on the night, 3-1 on aggregate.
Yeah, difficult to take for Arsenal. Another semi-final that they end up losing. It's becoming a little bit of a habit, which isn't great. But what I will say, John, is I think that you have to look at the performance and the way that Arsenal approached this game. And there was a lot of positives about how they went about it. They didn't get the desired result. Donnarumma pulled brilliant saves out at key moments where they really needed to score a goal, and it just didn't happen for them in this game. But PSG, for me, out of all the Champions League teams I've seen this season, they're in a special moment here at this club. And I think, you know, there's a real feeling for me that this is going to be their time.
Yeah, much more on that very subject, I'm sure, after 10 o'clock. But we've got wild scenes of celebration here at the end of the semi-final. It's so tough for the losers. Arsenal's players going across to their fans in the corner. And that PSG theme, Go West, blaring out inside the stadium. The Arsenal song, but it's Paris Saint-Germain's night. 2-1 on the night, 3-1 on aggregate. Paris Saint-Germain are in the final.
Mikel Arteta going round the Paris Saint-Germain players and shaking them by their hands. Of course, Mikel Arteta, a man who has played for Paris Saint-Germain as well, so he's shaking the hands of some of the Paris Saint-Germain staff and dignitaries who are on the pitch as well. And they are celebrating as a group, aren't they, John? That Paris Saint-Germain squad, backroom staff, they're in a circle and dancing together at the moment.
And that's exactly it. And, you know, we've said this time and again about this Paris Saint-Germain squad, this team at the moment under Luis Enrique. The big difference is that's exactly what they are. They're all celebrating together there. They are a unit, they're a team, you know, and that's often been the downfall in the past. But this is different. This is different PSG, and this might be the year for them.
And you describe them as being in a moment, Matt. And look, we'll look back on the game after 10 o'clock. We'll certainly look at it from an Arsenal point of view as well. But they are in a moment at Paris Saint-Germain, and they are enjoyable to watch for all sorts of different reasons.
Yeah, I completely agree, Chappers. They're an outstanding team to watch, I will say. There's so many interesting things about them, but the one thing that stands out the most for me is that Luis Enrique has got a team that works incredibly hard for each other, and they've got an energy level and a speed about them, certainly in wide areas, that is just so hard to handle. And they put it all together. I think they're demanding a lot from each other, and they've grown so quickly as a team together that it's just really, you know, they're night and day from what they were at the start of the season.
Aren't they? I think it's baffling. I think we'd have struggled to have found 5 positives about them, say, in October, to be honest with you. But then, since then, they have pace, they have energy, they have stamina, they put their bodies on the line. They've got some of the most skillful players in Europe. They've got some of the youngest players in Europe. They have a goalkeeper who divides opinion, but seems to make 4 world-class saves in every Champions League knockout tie that he's in.
Seems to be man of the match in virtually every game we've seen him.
Yeah, and yet people question him. I mean, the contrast from October to now is mean, it's like watching a different club.
They're actually now going, Mark, the PSG squad all together. They've gone to the other end, which is to our left. That's where all the ultras are. There's no one's left there. And there are dozens of red flares burning away in the top tier, and they're all together, celebrating hand in hand, running towards those supporters. There are probably about 200 photographers as well behind the goal, in the area between the goal and the pitch and the stands, and the flag still waving. What a sight it is.
I think also, Chappers, touching on that speed of how quickly they've kind of transformed into this, Champions League finalist team. You have to look at the manager, don't you? And you have to think, wow, the messages that he must have got across in such a short period of time. Credit to him, because he's influenced this group of players massively.
Lots to talk about ahead of the Champions League final. Actually, with Luis Enrique and Simone Inzaghi, Paris Saint-Germain against Inter at the end of May. That will be the 2025 Champions League final. Plenty of discussion and reaction to come until 10:30. Just in the tennis, by the way, in the Italian Open, Emma Raducanu through to the second round after a 3-set win against Maya Joint of Australia. Earlier, Katie Boulter going out in straight sets. Exactly 10 o'clock, lots of reaction to come then to Arsenal going out of the Champions League at the semi-final stage after Lisa McCormick and the BBC News.
The voice of the UK.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
Catholic cardinals meeting at the Vatican have failed to elect a new pope on their first day of deliberations. The conclave will continue again tomorrow. Matthew Schmalz is the founder of the Journal of Global Catholicism.
Because of the diversity of the College of Cardinals, the conclave could be a little longer. I mean, we're not talking weeks or months or years or anything like that, but maybe a day longer than what we've experienced in the last papal elections. These are cardinals who still are getting to know one another, and so unless they're going to go for a clear candidate who's already well known, the deliberations may take some time.
Officials in Pakistan say the number of civilians killed in India's missile strikes has risen to 31. India says the strikes targeted terrorist camps in response to a deadly attack on tourists in Kashmir last month. Pakistan's called it an act of war. Derbyshire police have named a man who was stabbed to death in a bank in Derby yesterday afternoon. 37-year-old Gurvinder Johal died at the scene. A man in his 40s has been questioned on suspicion of murder, and a man in his 30s was arrested on suspicion of assisting an offender. The government's to make it a criminal offence to climb on the Winston Churchill statue in Parliament Square in London. Offenders could be jailed for 3 months and given a £1,000 fine. And Walt Disney has announced plans to open its first theme park in the Middle East. The resort will be in the United Arab Emirates and Abu Dhabi's Yas Island.
BBC Radio 5 Live. This week, we're marking the 80th anniversary of VE Day.
We all threw our hats into the air and jumped for joy.
Today is Victory in Europe Day.
We'll be hearing from veterans, historians and members of the public, reflecting on the historic significance of the occasion.
Stop firing, stop advancing, the war's over.
VE Day, the 80th anniversary.
Everybody was kissing and hugging everybody. It was just fabulous.
Ask your smart speaker to play BBC Radio 5 Live. This is 5 Live Sports.
The Champions League with Mark Chapman.
Listen on BBC Sounds.
So in the French capital tonight, it's finished Paris Saint-Germain 2, Arsenal 1 on the night, 3-1 on aggregate. Paris Saint-Germain through to play Inter Milan in the final in Munich at the end of May. Former Arsenal defender Matt Upson and John Murray, our correspondent, still in the Parc des Princes. Sum that up for us then, John.
Well, I would sum it up by saying Paris Saint-Germain were worthy winners. Arsenal were beaten by the better team over the 2 legs, who, remember, after beating Manchester City here in the league phase, have done the English treble, haven't they? Knocking out Liverpool, Aston Villa and Arsenal in the round of 16, quarter-final and semi-final. Tonight, I think the key phase of this match was that opening 20 minutes when Arsenal were very good, but they couldn't find one of the magic moments that Mikel Arteta was calling for. In fact, it was that man again, goalkeeper Donnarumma, who produced the magic, the saves to keep Arsenal out, most notably from Martinelli and from Odegaard. A brilliant save that. And the opening goal came at the other end from a free kick, which was headed out by Partey and brilliantly finished by Fabian Ruiz. They doubled their lead in the second half through Hakimi. Looked as though they'd get a third goal as well when a penalty was given rather harshly against Lewis Skelly, but Raya made the save to keep it at the time 1-0, made the save from Vitinha. There was hope at the end, a little bit of chaos. Saka was able to get Arsenal on the score sheet and then missed a big chance as well, an open goal that he couldn't put under the crossbar. Instead he blazed it over the top. And I think well before the final whistle went, I think everyone here in Paris in the Parc des Princes was able to celebrate and enjoy the moment as Paris Saint-Germain took their place in a second Champions League final. But ultimately disappointment again. They've lost all 4 two-legged semi-finals that they've played under Mikel Arteta, and 2 of those semi-finals this season. Nearly, but not quite.
Well, nearly, but not quite, Matt Upson. That's more than just tonight, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, tonight isn't going any, towards any lengths of dispelling that kind of thought process that is Arsenal at the moment. And, the stats that John just said there would indicate that they are nearly getting there, but not quite. I'm not sure if it's possible to kind of get there with not having a recognised centre forward, certainly with Havertz and Jesus out, but neither of those 2 players are maybe the answer for Arsenal kicking on to the next level in terms of scoring goals, and that's what they need. I mean, they had so many kind of good moments, got good positions, balls into the box, all these things that are happening, but that instinctive goal scoring feeling just isn't quite in the squad. And you look at great Arsenal teams of the past, they've had those in the team, and Arsenal have been struggling with that for quite a while now.
So is that more than just having an out-and-out striker? Because there are 2 things there that you mentioned. One having a striker,
yeah,
but also goal-scoring instincts.
Yes.
And that's not just about one person in one position. That's a team.
Yeah, I think you can spread that across the team, but the goal scorer is the goal scorer, isn't it? It's a player that has that kind of sniff in the box where you just pick up that right place, or you're on the loose ball, and it gets you out of trouble, chappers. I find that Arsenal have to work really hard and play really well to get their reward all the time. Whereas, as we know, sometimes you're going to have moments where you're not going to play that well, but you still need to win the game. And I don't think they quite have that balance and are able to win those matches without playing too well. They have to be at their best and very secure, solid defensively, play good football, but you can't produce that all the time.
But then we're looking at, aren't we, Rice and Martinelli and Saka and Ødegaard, and look, I'm not sure Ødegaard could have done anything at all about Donnarumma's save in the first half, which was astonishing. But I'm looking at them in a group, and people might think it utterly bizarre that I mentioned Brentford here. But on Sunday night on Match of the Day 2, we had the stat that Brentford are the first team in the Premier League this season to have 3 players who scored 10 or more goals, in Mbeumo and Wissa and Kevin Schade.
Yep.
Now, that's what you need, isn't it? I mean,
absolutely.
People will then say, well, Brentford aren't going to win anything. I know that, but at the next level, you need that even more, don't you?
Of course you do. I mean, Martinelli doesn't score anywhere near enough goals in that position. Martin Ødegaard hasn't scored as many goals as what he has done previously from midfield. Saka was out injured for a while with that ankle, while you then got a centre forward that's not prolific in front of goal. Havertz weighs in with a few and what have you, but he's not going to be banging goals in. So all of a sudden you're down in 2 or 3 areas, and then you're really in trouble. What I will say tonight is that while it will be looked upon badly on Arsenal, like for the reasons we've mentioned, I've just seen on the big screen here the save from Donnarumma from Saka's left foot curler. I mean, that was just a brilliant save as well. The Ødegaard one, and then the Saka miss, where he should just be able to just side for that, and to create a really uncomfortable last 10 minutes in this stadium for PSG. So there's 3 big chances there that you look at and go, well, it could have gone a different way. It maybe wasn't as far off from Arsenal to go through this game, even though they've lost, pretty handsomely at 3-1. the margins were maybe a little bit tighter than what we're giving them credit for.
It was more that first 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It was that period when they were very good.
Yeah,
they got everything right. They got the approach spot on in that first 20 minutes. And I think more, it's that period of time where you would be looking for the individual, the natural goal scorer, the centre forward, to make the difference.
But then equally, John, when they pulled one back, all of a sudden they looked more dangerous again.
Yeah, but it was a different kind of game then. I think it was more that period. And PSG were under pressure.
Yeah,
they were worried in that first 20 minutes because that was constant Arsenal pressure. And I feel it was that period, if Arsenal had been able to step it up, you're looking there of a potentially great night for Arsenal. The latter part of the match, as we said at the time, was more chaos.
Yeah, but I think that, PSG had their ups and downs in the game, and I think that moment as well, I think they'd gone 3 up and just thought they'd won for a minute and stopped doing that extra 5%. I mean, Donnarumma came steaming out of his goal, and Kvaratskhelia was right up on the halfway line, and he was losing his head with him for not working hard enough. And Kvaratskhelia did a brilliant defensive job all game. I thought he worked his socks off and made so many blocks in the first half, but he switched off for a couple of minutes, chappers, and Donnarumma's out there on him. Now, that to me is a sign of a world-class team. When you've got players on the pitch that are demanding that of their own players for every second of the game, that's a team that's going to be successful.
Do you think then, given the saves that Donnarumma has made, given the chance that Saka put over the bar, do you think the coming days in the inquest that there will be around Arsenal is unfair if you were to base it purely on tonight? But do you then think it is fair because there is a bigger picture here? 4 defeats in 4 in 2-legged semi-finals for Mikel Arteta. 5th season in a row without a major trophy. So you're trying to balance up the two things, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, naturally you're going to dive into the fine detail as to why you're not just going that final step. And, there's so many positives about what Mikel Arteta has done with this Arsenal team. And they're a very good side. And I think that, for them to go the next step, it is the fine detail. But for me, there's one glaring thing. And I think it's that position that we're always talking about, and having a player that is out and out going to play in that role and produce those kind of goals. And then I think other players will benefit from that as well because it's another threat. So Saka will get more space, Martinelli might get more space, and it just has a knock-on effect to the team when you have a front three. I look at the Paris front three, and when they break away, they've just got a feeling that they're always going to put the ball in the back of the net. And I think that Arsenal don't quite have that level at the moment.
But he's been in charge for 5.5 years now.
Yeah.
And let's not forget, it is his first job. Yeah. It's his first
He's
job.
done a great job.
And he has. And a lot of money has been spent. It's in excess of £700 million. And what they do this summer, and I know that Victor Gyökeres is being mentioned as a prime candidate for Arsenal. But what's happened now, the 2 semi-final defeats, the fact that they might not finish as runners-up again in the Premier League this season. They've got a tough finish to the season, although that final match away at Southampton, that should be enough for them to make sure that they are in the Champions League next season. But that will be the narrative, how they do in those matches. Liverpool away on Sunday, then at home to Newcastle. Those are the next 2 Premier League matches. So where they finish in the Premier League, coupled with these semi-final defeats and the business that they do in the summer, but it means that the pressure will be on at the start of next season.
Do you think 2 years ago Arsenal flew more at teams a bit like Paris Saint-Germain did tonight?
I think that Arsenal, every time I used to go and see them at home especially, they would start in the opening 50 minutes and they would fly at teams.
Yeah.
They would go right at them, and I think they were having more joy in those wide areas. I think Saka has obviously been out a long time with his injury. He's come back. I think he's hit moments of that form. Tonight really found it tough, understandably, because I think their left side is just unbelievably strong, and it was very difficult, but he still managed to have an impact on the game. Saka, he gets his goal, he should score another. He had a great save from Donnarumma, and I'd say that Saka might not be quite at his very best at this moment in time, but he's not far off. So he's having great impact. I think Martinelli does so much good work from that far side, and he does fly at players in the game, but the end product numbers aren't quite there, chappers, and I think you've got to have that balance across that front three, and at the moment for me it's only Saka that regularly produces those kind of numbers, and the other two roles is not quite up there.
Tell you what as well, John, the stats sort of back all of this up really. I've just got them in front of me now. 54% possession for Arsenal this evening. They had 19 total shots compared to Paris Saint-Germain's 11, and yet only 4 of those were on target. And probably doesn't have this as an added stat, but probably at least 3 of them saw world-class saves.
Yeah, well, certainly 3 of them.
Yeah,
from Martinelli,
sure, yeah.
Odegaard and Saka.
And the other thing with Donnarumma as well, Matt, we're going to bring in Sarah Manai in a minute, French football journalist, but the other thing with Donnarumma is the save from Odegaard was low down to his left, and the save from Saka was high up to his right.
Yeah, I know. He's just producing brilliant saves. And I looked at both of them, and it's weird because since Paul Robinson said that before the game, I keep checking where his starting position is, chappers. I can't stop looking where he's placing himself. Why was he able to save that? Where was he? How close was he to the line? And I think he's, all those little details, he's figured it out how he needs to do it. And while he isn't the most pleasing on the eye, and there's a lot of people that might not rate him, and there's mistakes and this, that, and the other, he's a great fit for this football club, because he can get away with those little, the mistakes that might cost in Ligue 1, and they can still romp it. But then he can play in matches like this and in the Euros final and have a massive impact on the game and become man of the match. So it's a great goalkeeper for PSG to have.
I went to the PSG campus yesterday when they were doing their talking before the match, and Hakimi was the player who was speaking to us, and he was saying about Donnarumma. He was saying a couple of things that I wouldn't necessarily have expected about him. He said Donnarumma brings serenity to the dressing room, and also he said in the dressing room he's also really light-hearted, so he sounds as though he's a bit of a joker in the dressing room. Serenity, which I wouldn't necessarily have expected.
You do tend to make quick judgments on people, don't you, John? You see?
I'm very open-minded. I'm known for it. I'm very known for it.
Go on.
Yeah, I was just going to say as well with Luis Enrique yesterday, I was interested to know whether he found a point in this season where it all clicked for them, because we felt that we were here for that match against Paris Saint-Germain, against Manchester City in January. But he said, and I can't doubt him, but he said right at the start he knew that he had the right group of players here, and obviously he's added people like Kvaratskhelia. It's obviously, that was a significant move for them in January. But he felt that he already had the components really that were going to become the team that he has now towards the end of this second season for him.
Well, let's bring in Sarah Manai, French football journalist. Evening, Sarah.
Good evening, Mark.
When do you think they clicked? I mean, Luis Enrique says he always felt since the start of the season that he had the players, but there is no doubt they stumbled through the early stages.
They have indeed. And I think, if you looked at how things have changed, the progress that was made between the first Champions League game of the season for PSG, there was Girona back in September, and the second, and this game tonight, that it's a world apart really. They made so much progress. I think Luis Enrique really found a balance in this team. He found his group of players which he can rely on. We were talking about Kvaratskhelia. Of course, that was a big asset during the season, but something clicked. Dembele is he's a whole different player. He's putting in some really good performances. There are a lot of players like that, Désiré Doué as well. Something definitely clicked about a few months ago, I'd say, mid-season. Something really changed, because I think no one in Paris tonight could have said back in September that this team would play that well and would qualify for the Champions League finals. There was a lot of uncertainty, and I think he is the man, Luis Enrique, who really changed things and really adapted to his players, and that's thanks to him tonight if they're qualified in that final.
I mean, the other side of it, I suppose, Matt, is if what John says about Luis Enrique thinking he always had the components. I mean, you actually look at each. We've done Donnarumma, but then if you look at each unit, you look at the back four, you look at the midfield three, You look at the attacking 3 or 4, depending on which of the 3 or 4 are playing. They're all balanced.
Yeah, no, I agree, and he's struck the perfect balance, to be honest, in the team, and it's got an imprint of him, his intensity, his work rate, the togetherness, the way they're fighting for each other. It's all the hallmarks of a team that's going to be really, really successful. And I don't doubt, like what John said, that he noticed these things in their characteristics because he's been around them day in, day out, all the way through. I don't doubt that he noticed them early, but that second 45 minutes here against Manchester City, when me and John were here, I think for them to walk off the pitch, having just dominated that second half in the manner that they did, that must have been a point where they came away from the European football matches and went, wow, we can actually go on and win this. And since then, they've just played like a team that really believes that.
I'm sorry, it sounded like you wanted to come in there.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, because you know when he brought that Luis Enrique, he brought this team spirit that PSG was lacking and missing for many, many years. They've tried everything. They have invested, we all know, in an incredible amount of money with their enormous budget in recruitment, performance enhancement tools. They have this big staff surrounding the team, and what he brought when he arrived was this very team spirit. He manages, Luis Enrique, to take the best out of each player. That's how you get those good individual performances. It is thanks to him, really, because if you see throughout the years what PSG have tried, they tried the stars, they tried Messi, they tried Mbappe, they've tried everything, and he seems to be the man of the situation in the end. It's Luis Enrique, because it's a team today that is free of its stars. Because we spoke about Donnarumma, there are not many stars in that team, apart from him, really, and maybe Marquinhos. It's a young bunch of players, and he brought this cohesion on the pitch, I think, Luis Enrique. There's more harmony in the dressing room, yeah.
But you watched them tonight, you watched them at Anfield, you watched them when they played Manchester City, you watched them when they went away to Stuttgart to seal their qualification. The one thing you can't actually deny now is their spirit. I mean, they spent the last half hour tonight chest bumping each other with every clearance and gesturing to their fans. The switch around is from the Messi, Neymar, Mbappe era is phenomenal.
It is phenomenal, and they didn't have everything under control tonight, because you were talking about the possession stats and shots, and Arsenal played a good game. It would have been a very different story if Declan Rice had scored that goal earlier in the game. It would have been very different. It would have been different if Donnarumma, would have been injured. A lot of things could have been different. They didn't play. They had the second half in hand, but the first one, everything could have happened. But what changed? And now you see it's the spirit, it's the way they play for each other, it's the way for those players. It was the most important night of their lives, which I don't feel with Mbappe or Messi they really felt that. Yeah. They didn't really, they were playing for themselves, really. And this team, this PSG team, it feels like there's something very different. And I think that is really thanks to Luis Enrique, this cohesion, this harmony. They radiate confidence and serenity. I mean, even the atmosphere around the team is very positive. If you speak to people in Paris who are close to PSG, and they would tell you how the atmosphere has changed. And there is a belief that this year could be the one for them. But even before this Arsenal game, even before Aston Villa, there is a belief that it's never going to be an easy path, because we all know that if you want to win the Champions League, it's never going to be easy. But this team just radiate confidence, and I think he really brought that, because with the stars, with Messi, with Mbappe, you could feel that if things were not going in the way they wanted to, if they conceded a goal early in the game or whatever, they used to panic very quickly. They used to be, the Parc des Princes could be actually dangerous for them, because if things didn't turn out the way they wish it did, they would be much more anxious, and you could feel the anxiety on the faces and all. And tonight, even when Arsenal was playing really well, especially in the first half, they were very confident and calm. I thought Marquinhos, for example, in his role was very calming everyone down and bringing the serenity. And that is the thing that really changed for me at PSG over the years.
The interesting thing for me that you're talking about there, Sarah, is the one great thing, and why football's so fantastic and team sports is that that what you're talking about there, you can't buy. So it's not something you can't buy off the shelf. It has to be delivered and administered by the culture and the coach and that message that he's getting across all the time. And I agree. The speed in which this is turned is incredible, because you've got young players that are absorbing all of this mentality and understanding of what that edge is from the head coach. And I think that's a brilliant thing about it.
And to throw something else in, and you said it during commentary, Matt, and it's difficult to disagree with, that Paris Saint-Germain's left side is the best in world football?
Yeah, I believe so. I don't see a better left side than what they have. I mean, Mendes is out of this world. I think you could probably just ask Bukayo Saka what it's like playing against those two, doubling up in each other. It was incredibly difficult. His confidence, his pace when they go forward with the ball, they're just brilliant to watch. I really enjoy watching their left side.
Sarah's kind of mentioned how Luis Enrique has changed so much at Paris Saint-Germain. And we've talked a lot about Paris Saint-Germain during this Champions League campaign. It's interesting, isn't it, John? Because, you normally talk about someone being the head coach of Paris Saint-Germain or the manager of Paris Saint-Germain, and the perception is, with the money they've got and Liga and where anybody could do that. Anybody could do that and they'd be fine. He is, I wouldn't necessarily say one of the most underrated, but he's probably one of the more underappreciated head coaches at the elite end of European football, isn't he?
Yeah, and I think he's kind of come in and done it his way, and having seen him up close quite a lot now this season in the times that we've covered them, he's a very interesting man to watch in the public eye, and the way that he goes about his business. And I'd be fairly confident that he came in here with some big demands, and that he knows that the big personalities, I mentioned them all during the course of the commentary, they've had some of the best managers in Europe here, with the ultimate goal of winning the Champions League. But there's probably a little bit of fortune in there as well, because they've tried so many different ways, as we've said, with some of the big stars and the big names. That hasn't worked, and so that probably meant that he had more power to do it his way.
Sarah, I'm going to let you go. Thank you very much for being with us. Sarah Manai, French football journalist on 5 Live Sport this evening. And Matt, we have a final between, this expands it slightly, Luis Enrique and Simone Inzaghi, two probably underappreciated head coaches in Europe outside their own circle.
Yeah, no, I agree. And what Inzaghi's done there at Inter, I just find fascinating, the way that they play, how they go about. Having been there this season once to watch Arsenal play there, it was just what they appreciate there. For what the players do is very unique and different to what most clubs like, and they're happy doing it. And they've now put that together with some good attacking players. They're scoring some really good goals. That's going to be a tough nut to crack, I have to say. So
we've got the first France-Italy Champions League final since Marseille won it. So the only French team to have won it. That was back in '93.
Really?
When
Marseille AC Milan
beat Milan 1-0 in Munich.
Yeah.
So and I think with Inter, we were struck by it last night, that there is this reliance on, this is a young team, Paris Saint-Germain, and there are so many 30-somethings in that Inter team.
Henrik Mkhitaryan must be looking at Jean Neves side thinking, oh, God, this could be a difficult 90 minutes ahead.
But I've got Mkhitaryan at 36, Darmian 35, Acerbi 37, Sommer 36, Taremi's 32, Arnautovic is still there at 36, and De Vrij at 33. And they're all important members of that squad.
Mikel Arteta has said to television this evening, be interested in your thoughts on this, Matt, before we go. The difference was the goalkeeper. He made the difference. I'm very proud of the side. After 20 minutes, we should have been 2 or 3 up. There's something extra in the competition that you need for a game to go your way, and it didn't. I'm upset, but we should not be. We were very close, and for large periods of both games, we were better than them. I don't think there's been a better team in the competition than Arsenal. But the game is all about both boxers, the striker and the keeper, and Donnarumma was the difference today.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with elements of that. I'm not sure if Arsenal have been the best team in the competition because, for me, that would have to be PSG. I think from what I've seen and have watched them play. But he's right in the sense that early on was a big moment for Arsenal. Donnarumma did produce the goods and made the saves, but that's what top players do. And PSG were managed to, their top players delivered that on the night. Arsenal were very close. The fine margins and the fine detail at this level is minuscule, as we know, and it could have been very, very different. So I think they should be proud. I think it's a good team, and it was a good team performance from Arsenal.
And also in the context of that discussion, who was expecting Arsenal to get this far in the Champions League this season, and who was expecting them to knock out Real Madrid in the quarter-finals?
And just a final one for you both. For a neutral, I'm struggling to think of a better Champions League season than the one that we've had at the end of these semi-finals. What?
Matt's looking at me because Matt knows, and you know as well, that I do have my doubts about this format. And I think it has been good. Don't get me wrong.
Still,
I've enjoyed the variety to it. I still struggle with the what I see as the unfairness of the group stage. I think that's an issue, and I think we will get to a point where we'll be saying, why are there so many matches in the group stage? I think we will come to that point. But for something new and for something fresh, I've enjoyed it this season.
Oh.
Well, if he's got the Murray seal of approval, then
I wouldn't go that far.
It's just a grudging seal of approval, Matt. I would suggest, but it's been entertaining. That was all my point.
It has been
really
entertaining.
I've loved it.
Yes,
I've loved it.
But the knockout stages have always been entertaining.
Okay. Thank you very much to both of you. Inter against Paris Saint-Germain then in Munich, Saturday, May the 31st. You will hear it with us live here on 5 Live Sport. All about the Europa League. Tomorrow, Bodo Glimt against Tottenham on 5 Live. Manchester United against Athletic Club on Sports Extra. Goodness knows what's going to happen in those two games. We'll also have updates of Chelsea against Djurgården in the Conference League, and also the Championship playoffs start tomorrow night as well, with Bristol City against Sheffield United. The dramatic nights just keep coming at this stage of the season. Tony Livesey's the other side of the latest BBC News.
The voice of the UK.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
And with your news on 5 Live, I'm Matty Nixon. Black smoke has risen from the Sistine Chapel, meaning a new pope hasn't been chosen yet. The Vatican says around 45,000 people gathered, waiting for the result of the first conclave vote. There have been further international calls for a de-escalation in tensions between Pakistan and India following last night's military clashes between the two neighbours. Pakistan says India's missile strikes on its territory are an act of war, while India says it was targeting terrorist sites. Derbyshire police have named a man who was stabbed to death in a bank in Derby yesterday afternoon. 37-year-old Govinda Johal died at the scene. A man in his 40s is being questioned on suspicion of murder, and a man in his 30s was arrested on suspicion of assisting an offender. And the US Central Bank has again left interest rates unchanged despite pressure from President Trump to lower borrowing costs. The Federal Reserve has warned that inflation and unemployment could rise as a result of Washington's tariffs on foreign imports. To sport, and as we've been hearing, Arsenal are out of the Champions League after a 2-1 defeat at Paris Saint-Germain in their semi-final second leg tonight. The defeat in the French capital sees Mikel Arteta's side lose 3-1 on aggregate. PSG will now face Inter Milan in the final in Munich on May the 31st. Elsewhere, the Manchester United manager Ruben Amorim insists he wants to keep captain Bruno Fernandes. United have a 3-0 lead over Athletic Club to take into their Europa League semi-final second leg at Old Trafford on Thursday, but the build-up's been dominated with speculation linking their captain with a move to Saudi Arabia. Meanwhile, Tottenham will be without the England international James Maddison for the second leg of their tie in the semi-finals against Bodo Glimt. Maddison will miss the rest of the season after picking up a knee injury in last week's 3-1 first leg victory. And in tennis, it was a mixed day for the Brits at the Italian Open in Rome. Emma Raducanu and Cameron Norrie are both through to round 2, but Katie Bolt is out. Raducanu beat Australia's Maya Joint in 3 sets, while Norrie, who was in the main draw as a lucky loser, beat another Aussie, Christopher O'Connell, in straight sets.
I'm obliged to inform you.
On BBC iPlayer.
I will take revenge on Tommy Shelby. Even if I walk away, I'm still a target.
These aren't crime dramas.
You serious?
I'm sorry, what are you saying, mate?
they're a dose of danger.
Come on! That's fighting talk, that.
It's good, isn't it? That's very good. Kin, Peaky Blinders, This City Is Ours, and loads more. The future belongs to us. Whoever you are, wherever you stream. BBC iPlayer.
Tony Livesey
On BBC Radio 5 Live.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for being with us tonight. Not to be them for Arsenal. They failed to make the Champions League final. They should have done better. If you were listening to 5 Live match commentary with John Murray, they were all over PSG in the first 20-25 minutes. However,
not cleared by Partey. Hakimi! Right foot! Bottom corner! The right back has clinched it surely for Paris Saint-Germain.
yes, we will get fan reaction in a second. Alex, who's on the team tonight, has said, and I quote, just to set the debate rolling, how many more seasons will Arteta be rewarded for failure? I won't name him fully in case the Gooners are after him after the game, but is that a genuine debate? Is this now a massive failure for Arsenal this season? You can talk about how well you've played over the 2 games against PSG, but you've finished, well, you haven't won the league, you're not going to win the Champions League. Is it a disastrous season for Arsenal? Is it a disaster, me trying to say disastrous? Maya's alongside me, producer Maya tonight. Hello, Maya.
Hello, Tony.
What are the numbers if people want to get involved?
Well, you can text 85058 or you can WhatsApp 08085 909 693.
Yeah, we have a couple of Gooners lined up to talk to, but if you want to join the debate, do give us a ring or text us tonight. Have you had enough? Well, no, I shouldn't say that. You tell me what you think of your manager, what you think of next season, what you're capable of. Let us know. Also, in case you missed it, just before kick-off tonight, we discovered that the search for a new pope continues. Black smoke was seen from the chimney of the Sistine Chapel, and it met, well, I would call this a mixed reaction from 30,000 chimney watchers at the Vatican. Oh, it's hard to... It sounds like a near miss for my team at Turf Moor, does that? But that was the reaction. It's hard to wonder how to react, isn't it, when you see black smoke? Many people disappointed. There is no new pope tonight. Elsewhere, if you were listening to this show last night, we broke the news of that attack on Pakistan by India, that missile attack. Pakistan today have said that their reply consisted of shooting down 5 Indian fighter planes last night. There has been no independent confirmation of that. Certainly India haven't done so. We'll continue to monitor that situation. A 3-day Russian ceasefire. Now, it is a unilateral ceasefire in the war against Ukraine, but it's was underway from 10 o'clock tonight. Will it hold? We'll talk about that. If you missed this only happened in the past hour or so. Weight Watchers have filed for bankruptcy tonight. They owe £860 million. Is it a side effect of the growth of weight loss jabs? Are people looking elsewhere to lose weight? Millions of people have used Weight Watchers over the years. If you've got a story, got an experience of using Weight Watchers, whether it worked or otherwise, let us know. Maybe you're using a jab now and have turned away from traditional methods of dieting. 85058 the number, or as Maya said, 08085 909 693. Folk music legend Peggy Seeger joins us tonight. She's talking about her final album and her final tour. She's 89, for goodness sake. She's had an astonishing career. She's got loads to talk about. So Peggy Seeger joins us on the show tonight. On the subject of music, first it was Kate Bush with Running Up That Hill that found a younger audience thanks to Stranger Things. Now this. Yes, that is... Maya, what is that?
That is Aha.
Yes.
Take On Me. And now that I've heard this, I have heard this many, many times.
Yeah, but you
never known that it was Aha.
No, 1985 that got to number 2, Take On Me by Aha. But it's been given a second life because it's been included in the show Last of Us, that programme about the end of the world. So we're going to talk tonight about songs that got a second life through movies, the TV, or theatre. Things like things like this. scene. It's just about to chop an ear off. Reservoir Dogs. So this came back through that. What about this one? The old Potter's Wheel. Unchained Melody. So if you want to make some suggestions for that, songs that had a second live through movies, it's the power of the TV director these days. They can pluck a song and turn it into a hit. Also, just while we're on the subject of music, it's beautiful, isn't it, this? We're going to talk later on about mixtape topics for tomorrow. Randomly, we've had one from the Monster Raving Looney Party tonight, directly to the show. So I'll throw that into the mix a little bit later on in the programme. It's relevant because it's based around Aha, although they didn't know that when they suggested it, the old Monster Ravers. So we'll talk about mixtape a little later on in the programme. What are the numbers again if anyone wants to get involved tonight?
You can text 85058 or you can WhatsApp 08085 909 693.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
Call free 08085 909 693. Text 85058. Text will be charged at your standard message rates. Message on WhatsApp 08085 909 693. Visit bbc.co.uk/5 live terms for our terms of use and privacy notice.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
The voice of the UK.
Tony Lipsey. Listen on BBC Sounds.
Well, that's it for Arsenal then. Their Champions League dream is no more. They were knocked out in the semi-final second leg against PSG tonight. It finished 2-1 on the night, 3-1 on aggregate. It was, to be fair to Arsenal, closer than that. They were all over PSG in the first 20 minutes. Here's how the game unfolded.
Another long throw. They're testing them. Blocked out to the edge of the area. Odegaard! Oh, it's saved! Saved by Donnarumma. That was an excellent save. That came through a crowd of players. Right-footed free kick towards the back post. That's headed out by Partey to the edge of the area. Fabian Ruiz! Oh, he scored! Fabian Ruiz makes it 1-0 on the night to Paris Saint-Germain.
The referee's just signalling to go to the screen.
Suggesting that he is going to be called to the screen.
Yeah. What was that about?
And there is a potential penalty check. You know what this means? Usually, when the referee is called across by the VAR, who is Bastien Dankert,
it's a handball against Arsenal.
Oh, little steps forward, a crouching motion. He walks up to the ball, and then Raya saves it down to his left, pushes it away. Not the most firmly hit penalty you've ever seen. Not cleared by Partey. Hakimi, right foot, bottom corner. The right back has clinched it surely for Paris Saint-Germain. And here's Saka. Saka's in, and Saka scores. And Arsenal have got a goal back with 15 minutes to play.
Not to me, though. So what are your thoughts? 85058 on the text, or WhatsApp is 08085 909 693. Alan Olga is an Arsenal fan, podcaster, writer for the Gooner fanzine. Alan, hello to you.
Hello, Tony. How are you?
I'm all right. Charlene Smith was as well from Arsenal Fan TV. Hello, Charlene.
Hello.
Guys, I really appreciate you coming on after that. To be fair, I probably sound too upbeat for your ears at the moment. Louise in London's texted, this isn't on Arteta, it's on Edu for bailing halfway through a season and the Cronkies for not supporting Arteta in January. The fact he managed to get the team to a Champions League semi-final with no striker for months is a tribute to him and the team. They must eat with their hands at Arsenal because they don't have any silverware, says Mark. I don't know which team he supports. Mind you, as a Spurs fan, I'd rather be second in the Premier League with Arteta, says this texter. Although he just say, mind you, it depends what Postecoglou does tomorrow night. Alan, initial reaction?
Obviously disappointed, but it's by no means disastrous. We can only demand as fans that we are in contention and compete for these big trophies. Only one team and possibly two get to win the Champions League and Premier League each season. And all we demanded when Arsene Wenger stayed too long was that he was replaced with someone that had us up there challenging. And Mikel Arteta, over the last two seasons, has had us up there challenging. This season, we've dropped away in the league. We've been a bit unlucky. There's been a bit of bad planning. There's been a number of errors on his part that I'm sure he will acknowledge as well. But in terms of tonight's game and the way I saw it, and across the two legs, I think he's right to say that we were the better team and just had a bit of bad luck. And I think he deserves time. He's in his first managerial job. Let's not forget that.
How long's he been at the club?
Well, he's been there nearly 5 years. Yeah. But if you look at it, the dumpster fire of a club that Arsene Wenger left put someone has organised the Unai Emery under huge pressure. Now, he didn't have the confidence or the standing at Arsenal to be able to change it because he hadn't been an ex-player. He'd come in, he pretty much trusted that the club was in good hands under Arsene Wenger. But Arteta knew that it wasn't, and he knew that under the hood there were lots of problems, and he solved those problems and got us challenging the last 2 seasons. And he's been very close to winning the last 2 titles, not so close this season. Some of that's on him, some of that's on the club, and his post-match interviews tonight have really pointed out where he feels that those errors have been made. He wasn't backed in the winter. He's definitely alluded to that tonight. And I think within the next 2 seasons, if the board put their hands in their pockets, which they should do, we pay a very high price for tickets over at Arsenal. If they put their hands in their pockets and back him, they will see trophies follow the bad luck.
He gets 7 years then, according to you. So he's had 5. He gets 2 more. Charlotte.
Well, I mean, look, if you're not miles away, you stick with the right man.
I'll come back to you, Alan. Charlene, where do you stand on all that?
Do you know, I am a huge Mikel Arteta fan. I feel like he has made a lot of significant changes in the club, which is very evident in terms of like our gameplay, the players that he's moved on, you know, where we're at and, you know, where we're challenging at the moment. So I don't feel like this season is purely down to Mikel Arteta's wrongdoing. You know, when we look at all of the injuries that we've been faced with throughout the season, we've had our key significant players out with injuries, come back, and it's just been back to back that they've been out with injuries. We've got this far in the Champions League without having an out and out striker. So I really feel like Mikel Arteta needs to get a lot more credit than he does get. And in terms of recruitment, should we be recruiting in the right way and Arteta gets the backing that he needs, I do feel like we will be, you know, winning the trophies that we deserve to win.
Peter in Cambridgeshire, Peter the Gooner says, for a season, this might be a regular joke at Arsenal. For a season or 2, I thought Mikel Arteta had been replaced by Mick the Artexter, where we were that iffy. However, it's his first senior job, and he's nearly got us there. If we torpedo in the league now, then that would be failure, says Peter. So, to me, guys, I don't want to be one of those presenters who just starts arguing with all the guests. But you've said give him another go, and then just listed quite a lot of reasons why he's failed.
But I don't think all of the things we're listing are on him, and I think he is a manager that learns on the job. I think because he's in his first job, he will make all of the significant errors that first-time managers make at our club, because that's what you get. If you appoint a first-time manager, you're almost guaranteeing that all the first-time errors that new managers make are going to be with your club. And he's done that, but he's managed to learn as he goes. And as long as we're seeing that progression, which we definitely are, as long as a lot of the key things aren't on him and sit outside, as we've said, with bad luck, a bit of bad planning on the part of the board, then I think you've got to stick with him. Tony, you support Burnley. Congratulations on promotion back to the Premier League.
Yeah. You only say that because you get 6 points, but go on.
But you used the word disastrous. Disastrous is Carlisle or Morecambe going out the league and having bad owners. And
someone just texted the show to say
Accrington closing their academy. That's disastrous. Yeah. Disastrous isn't just missing out very slightly on a place in the Champions League final, having beaten PSG on XG over 2 games and being very close in the title for 2 of 3 years.
Somebody's just somebody just texted in to say it will be disastrous for you tomorrow if Spurs get through to the Europa League final. But hey ho, that's tomorrow.
Good luck to them. Good luck to them.
What about, and Charlie, what about Liverpool as an example? You know, Klopp worked wonders with them. They've changed manager and they've done it again. They've won the league. Is there no one around there who could take you to the next level? Is there only Arteta?
I mean, credit to Liverpool and, him coming in and, winning the league in his first season. But if I'm honest, I haven't really been scouting around for any new managers. I've always been a big Mikel Arteta fan, and I see all the positives that he has brought to the club. And I do feel like, if he is backed in the right way, then he can do exactly the same thing as well. So for now, I don't want to see Arteta out. I want to see him pursue, and I do have belief and faith in him, and I feel like he will be lifting more trophies with us.
Couple of Liverpool fans are getting involved. Robert in Glasgow says, good evening, Tony. One FA Cup since 2019. Arnie's won a Premier League in the first 9 months. Question must be asked about Arteta, but as a Liverpool fan, we want him to stay. And another one here says 700 million quid spent, no trophies. Keep him at the club. That's from Mark, brackets Liverpool champions. Just a final question to you both then. Do trophies matter? Because coming close seems to be important. Champions League places, United have won a couple of trophies, haven't they? And look at the state of them at the moment.
Yeah, I think, look, trophies do matter, but you can't demand them. They can only go to one club. And if you're close, that's fine. I mean, we've come from a team that 10 years ago were losing 10-2 on aggregate in games and had no chance of reaching the semi-finals. Absolutely no chance whatsoever, and no chance of competing for the title. So I think those steps, if you're patient as a fan, it will come with Arteta. Oh. If there was a massive blowout and absolutely being nowhere near in the league and nowhere near in the Champions League across a number of seasons, then I think then you would start to worry. But trophies are just a bonus. Competing is the only thing you can ask for as a fan of a big club paying big money.
Guys, look, we'll talk next season, Maybe this time next season. Alan, thanks very much for joining us. I know it's been difficult after not winning tonight, but thanks, mate. Alan Olga there from the Gooner fanzine, amongst other things. Charlene as well. Thanks, Charlene.
Thank you for having me.
Cheers, Charlene Smith from Arsenal Fan TV, reacting to that news then that Arsenal have failed to get through to the Champions League final tonight. If you've got any further thoughts on that, you know the numbers. Right, earlier on, I don't want to get too romantic at this time of night, because we all know what this makes us think of, does it not? The Great Pottery Throwdown.
Lovely.
So this is Ghost. For the film Ghost, this is Unchained Melody, of course, which was a hit. I want to say, I'm guessing now, I've not been bothered to revise it. I think it's from the 1950s, but it was remade a hit in Ghost. So we're talking about songs that have been reinvented after Take On Me has been reinvented in The Last of Us. We're going to talk about this with guests later on, but you're making your suggestions, Maya. What are people saying tonight?
Yeah, so Liam in Bournemouth got in touch. He said Dreams by the Cranberries and Derry Girls. I don't remember that. Do you remember that?
No.
Okay.
You're the young person. Don't be throwing cranberries at me.
Well, I don't remember it. Okay, so Benny's actually sent in quite a few. Queen, Bohemian Rhapsody,
yes,
from
definitely.
Wayne's World.
Definitely, yeah.
Temptations, My Girl from My Girl.
Yes, definitely.
Hollies, He Ain't Heavy, He's My Brother from Miller Lite
Advert. TV advert. Well, it's true, TV adverts can reinvent songs as well. Yeah, that's from...
apparently that went on to become number one in 1988.
Thank you. And people are already sending in mixtape suggestions. I've said the Monster Raving Looney Party suggestion I'll put out later on, but Mel says, should the theme be Smoke?
I think that's a good idea.
In honour of the conclave.
That's a very good idea.
Are there any songs about smoke? Smoke gets in your eyes? That's about the only thing I can think of. Anyway, we'll discuss that the other side of the news and sport at 11 o'clock. It's just coming around to 7 minutes to now.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
Tony Lipsey on digital radio.
On BBC Sounds.
And ask your smart speaker to play BBC Radio 5 Live.
Now, if you were listening to the show last night, we broke the news about those Indian strikes on Pakistan-administered Kashmir. Main developments today, Pakistan have said that attack killed 31 people and injured 57. The Indian reasoning for that attack is that there were a response to a militant attack on Indian tourists last month. 26 people died in that attack. Pakistan's Prime Minister said they shot down 5 India fighter jets, and indeed that stands as their reply to the missile attack. The Prime Minister is Shehbaz Sharif, and he described India's strikes as cowardly and says that Pakistan did show last night that it can fight back.
Our Air Force team and army created a storm in the sky that our enemies were stunned. India's 5 airplanes, 5 war airplanes, are nothing. This was a reply from our side to them. Our army fought so bad on this attack.
Well, Indian-administered Kashmir has seen a decades-long insurgency which has claimed thousands of lives. India and Pakistan both claim Kashmir in full. Today, President Trump offered himself as a mediator if needed between the two countries.
I get along with both. I know both very well, and I want to see them work it out. I want to see them stop. And hopefully they can stop now. They've gone tit for tat, so hopefully they can stop now. But I know both. We get along with both countries very well. Good relationships with both, and I want to see it stop. And if I can do anything to help, I will be there.
Well, let's now speak to Atif Ghaffar, who's Vice Chairman of the British Pakistani Association in Swindon. Atif, hello to you.
Hi, are you all right?
I'm good, yeah. And Poonam Paransby is one of the co-founders of the BCP Indian Community Group in Bournemouth. Poonam, hello to you.
Hello, hiya.
Hiya. Atif, what's your perspective on what's happened over the past 24 hours and the calls from the likes of Trump and the likes of the UN for a steady hand now, a steady, peaceful hand to reign?
Yeah, thank you. From my perspective, I think it's important that peace does prevail and there is an end to the conflict that's taking place at the moment in front of our eyes, really. Like I've mentioned in previous interviews that I've done, war is not what Pakistan needs at this stage in the terms of its country and its economic stability. It needs peaceful relations and cordial relations with its neighbours. And we need to head towards peaceful talks, hopefully. And these attacks need to stop in Pakistan.
Yeah.
And that's where the country needs to be heading towards, I guess.
Poonam, I said in the intro to this that India admitted firing those missiles last night. Pakistan say they've shot down some fighter jets and that is their reply. Is that where this conflict, the latest escapade in this conflict, should end, do you feel?
I don't think
Sorry,
so.
Atif, this is Poonam first. Yeah, go on, Poonam.
Okay.
Sorry, I mean, it's a really sad situation at the moment. And I totally agree that peace is what should prevail. But at the same time, India follows a zero tolerance to terrorism policy, and especially when attacks are traced to, Pakistan-based groups. I mean, we really support what Indian government is trying to do, but again, human lives are at cost, at both ends. So it's really sad at the same time.
Yeah. What are people saying around you within your community, Poonam?
They are really scared. I have a lot of friends who are traveling to Mumbai, Delhi, everywhere. And they're just really worried. My parents are there. Our community here are really concerned. So we had a group message this morning going out, for broadcasting to everybody. Just try and remain calm. And, your well-being is really important here. And try and not, listen to rumors or any, fake news. Just stay connected to each other.
Yeah, Atif, and again the view from the British Pakistani community.
Yes, something similar. Where we've obviously lived in this country for many years, 50 to 60 years, especially in Swindon, where the Pakistani community is well established, and we have very good cordial relations with our Indian friends here. So we don't want to have anything happening here in terms of retaliation, etc. But some of the rhetoric coming from the ex-Prime Minister of our country doesn't really help when he's saying that there have been terrorist sites that have been hit, like mosques being attacked, etc. So this could cause some issues in this country where people assume that mosques are part of terrorist networks, etc. And Pakistan has been one of the biggest countries which has been a victim to terrorism with so many lives lost, and without any factual evidence to blame Pakistan for actually being involved in this attack in terms of backing anything that happened in Kashmir a couple of weeks ago. It's unfounded evidence, and we, in terms of what Pakistan wants, is Pakistan wants an independent investigation, and they're open to any country, anyone coming in and investigating who actually carried out these attacks. So
yeah, well, that's what India have asked for all along, haven't they? An investigation into where those attacks are coming from. But that kind of is an illustration of the dispute in a microcosm, isn't it? Atif, we've run out of time. We've got the news to come. Thanks for your time tonight.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Atif Ghaffar from the British Pakistani Association. Poonam, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Poonam Paransby there. One of the co-founders of BCP Indian Community Group in Bournemouth. Malala Yousafzai has spoken in the past few moments. We should take steps to de-escalate tensions, protect civilians, especially children. Hatred and violence are our common enemies, not each other, she says on social media. 5 Live News on the way.
The voice of the UK.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
BBC News at 11 o'clock. This is Helena Burke. Black smoke has emerged from the Sistine Chapel chimney in the Vatican, indicating that the cardinals meeting in the conclave have not yet agreed on a new pope. The 133 members of the clergy will retire overnight and resume their deliberations tomorrow. Thousands of people gathered in St Peter's Square to wait for the result of the first vote, which lasted about 3 hours. The BBC's Mariam Mashiri was among them.
We have black smoke billowing out of the chimney. We don't have any bells. We have black smoke. The cardinals have failed to elect a pope on the first round of voting, and that smoke appeared at 9:01 exactly local time, a new record, I believe.
A 3-day unilateral ceasefire proposed by Russia in its war in Ukraine has begun. The truce is being called to coincide with events in Moscow to mark the 80th anniversary of the defeat of Nazi Germany. Ukraine has not said if it will abide by the ceasefire. Pakistan has condemned India's missile strikes on its territory as an act of war. At least 31 people are said to have been killed in the attacks. India said the strikes were a response to the shooting of 26 Indian tourists in Kashmir 2 weeks ago. At a news conference this evening, Pakistan's Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif vowed retribution.
India committed an act of aggression and made a grave mistake for which it will now have to pay the price. Perhaps they thought we would retreat, but they forgot that by the grace of Allah Almighty, we are a nation of brave people. We're ready to fight to the last drop of blood for the honour and defence of our homeland.
New research says the richest 10% of individuals worldwide are responsible for 2/3 of global warming over the past 35 years. The researchers from Zurich's ETH University say they hope their findings will prompt a debate about who should pay for the consequences of climate change. A report on problems at Wales's largest hospital says criminal behaviour went unchallenged and some staff would disappear from operating theatres to watch Netflix. The Health Board, which runs the University Hospital of Wales in Cardiff, has apologised for the failings. Here's our Wales correspondent, Howell Griffith.
Concerns about the culture at the hospital started with a staff survey. A deeper investigation discovered an atmosphere of fear and intimidation where major problems were ignored. They include illegal drugs being found in a staff locker and colleagues being sworn at. Anaesthetic practitioners would leave surgery in order to look at their phones or watch Netflix. Patient consent wasn't always obtained properly and infection control measures weren't followed. The Health Board has apologised, saying while the number of incidents is small, it's sorry for the distress and concern the findings will cause.
Football and the French side PSG are through to the Champions League final after beating Arsenal 3-1 on aggregate, with tonight's semi-final in Paris ending 2-1. PSG will take on the Italian team Inter Milan in Munich later this month. BBC News, it's 3 minutes past 11.
Walker scores!
I'm Carl Walker.
And I'm Michael Brown.
And welcome to the Carl Walker podcast with me in Milan and Brownie in Manchester.
Walker charges brilliantly. You can
can ask us anything about football, our careers, or just random everyday stuff. What did you buy with your first ever paycheck as a footballer?
My first car. It was a Y-Ridge Renault Clio. How much was yours?
13,000.
13,000?
How things changed, Kyle.
Right, shall we move on?
The Kyle Walker Podcast.
Listen on BBC Sounds.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
Tony Livesey on digital radio.
On BBC Sounds.
And ask your smart speaker to play BBC Radio 5 Live.
I saw Michael Brown on the way in. Round the old revolving doors here at the BBC, was chatting to him. I didn't know that about his car. How much did he say his first car was? Maya, 13,000 pounds. Mine was 500. Is that so? Does anyone get a first car for cheaper than that? Now someone will text in who say,
yeah, I'm sure someone's got
102 and I bought a penny farthing for £2.60. Do you drive?
No, I don't.
Okay, 500 quid seems reasonable.
I'm so upset.
13,000 quid for your first car. Right, just after 11 o'clock here on The Late Show. Loads to come in the next hour of the programme. The latest ceasefire in Ukraine is an hour old. The caveat there is that it's a unilateral ceasefire proposed by Russia. They're celebrating 80 years since the end of the war in Europe. Ukraine have already said they don't think Russia will abide by it anyway. Which it appears to be holding as of now. Will be live in Kyiv very shortly indeed. We'll get more on the news that Weight Watchers has filed for bankruptcy in the United States. It owes over £800 million. Apparently it's struggling to compete with the weight loss jabs like Ozempic, and they're going to restructure. They say the business won't be affected. It's just the creditors who will lose out, but we'll find out a little bit more later on. On the subject of music tonight, first it was Kate Bush with Running Up That Hill that found a younger audience thanks to Stranger Things. Then it was this. That's A-ha, Take On Me from 1985. It's been included in The Last of Us, and so essentially what's happening is younger audiences are picking up on it and downloading it or whatever they do these days. And so we've asked for other examples of that. Quite a lot of people are saying this. Jane in Cambridgeshire. Hi, Tony. Sweet Caroline after the Lionesses' success. Here it goes. Where it began. Neil Diamond must be raking it in, says Jane. Actually, Jane, I happen to know this. He gave away the rights many years ago to charity, Sweet Caroline. So every time it's played, the money goes to a charity of his choice. So he's raking it in, but for charity, which is quite nice. Lots of people are suggesting this one, Murder on the Dance Floor.
Oh, tune.
Now, but you wouldn't have known that originally, Mark.
No, I also discovered it when I watched Saltburn.
There we are. So what does Matt say? Matt's in Mexico City, by the way. Hello, Matt.
Yeah, hello, Matt. He says, got to include Murder on the Dance Floor. That gave Sophie Ellis-Bextor a second life thanks to the film Saltburn and Barry Keoghan's Bear Behind.
Yes.
Yeah, it was Bear.
It was Bear. It was. We can confirm that. Yeah,
it was Bear. In HD.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was. Thanks for pointing that out. Yeah, trying to wipe it away. And the one below that as well is interesting, Mike, because I love this show.
Okay. House of Bamboo, amazing song. Now in This City Is Ours.
Yeah.
That's from Ruth and York. Never heard it before, and now I love it.
Yeah. If you haven't watched This City Is Ours on the BBC, it's tremendous. And there was a line dance involving an Andy Williams song called The House of Bamboo, which we're going to dig out and play for you very shortly indeed. And thank you to everybody who's sent in suggestions why Smoke should be the mixtape tomorrow because of the Papal Smoke. And they're sending a few ideas. I'm not sure there's going to be enough. So we will keep exploring that a little bit later on. I'll read out some of your texts as we go along. What are the numbers if people want to get involved tonight?
You can text 85058 or you can call or WhatsApp 08085 909 693.
Thank you very much. Also, just going to remind you, Peggy Seeger joins us on the show a little bit later on. The legendary folk singer, she's about to turn 90. She's got a new album out. She's got a new tour underway. And Peggy Seeger will join us live on the programme a little later. Now, let's talk about Ukraine. I mentioned that unilateral ceasefire. It's just over an hour since it came into effect. It proposed by Russia as they mark the anniversary of World War II victory over Nazi Germany. Ukraine wants a longer halt to the fighting. President Zelensky, in his nightly address to the nation, said he stands by his offer of a 30-day ceasefire. Ukrainian journalist Irina Matvishin is in Kyiv and joins us now. Irina, hello, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you for having me.
I realise you can't speak for the whole of Ukraine, but where you are at the moment, are things quiet?
Yes, so I'm currently in Kyiv. It's quite late here. It's 1 a.m. and I'm happy to be talking to you right now. And at this moment, it's quite quiet, but we don't know what to expect because last night was a nightmare, and me and my friends and everyone in Kyiv didn't sleep almost during the whole night because we were under attack of the ballistic missiles and then a drone attack from Russia.
Yeah, I'm quite conscious that here, even on this show, we're often just saying a news flash will pop up saying Kyiv's under attack or areas of Ukraine are under attack, and then we move on to another item. What is it like night after night after night, Irina, to have that fear that something might happen in the next moment?
Well, it's quite anxious, especially when you see, when you hear an air raid and then you wake up to a boom, an explosion, and you realize that it might have hit some civilian building, and then you actually see the news that it did hit something and people were killed. Like last night, several people were killed, including a child. You feel like it's a real threat and you become more anxious during the next air raids. So right now we know that there's a unilateral ceasefire from Russia, but from Easter time, we remember that the ceasefire was broken almost immediately and a lot of civilians were killed during these holidays. So we don't put much faith into what Putin says. We just judge by what Russia is doing, and it's targeting civilians mostly.
And how close do you feel, or how far away do you feel we are from a permanent ceasefire, an end to this conflict? There's been all kinds of discussions, haven't there, about Ukraine ceding already taken ground to Russia. Is a solution imminent? Irina, and what do the people that you speak to in Ukraine feel about ceding any ground to Russia in any kind of deal?
Well, to be honest, Ukrainians don't think much about the ceasefire. As I've said, they don't put much hope neither into the Trump administration and their efforts to put the end to this war, neither into Putin's words. So I think a lot will depend on the EU's pressure and the pressure from the US. And we see that J.D. Vance already said that they think that Russia demands too much. And I think a lot will depend on their actions, but also on Russia's how Russia is worn out on this war, because they are also losing a lot. So I think there is some kind of ceasefire in sight in the next maybe few months, but we cannot say for sure when it will happen and on which conditions. But what is sure, Ukrainians are not ready to cede land and not ready to recognize any territories as Russian.
So that would mean if Zelensky is to take that perspective, then this conflict's going to go on for years.
Well, it means that even if the ceasefire is agreed and both sides comply to it, we realize that it's unrealistic to demand all of our territories back immediately, because we just don't have the capacity to get them back. But it also means that Ukrainians will not officially recognize Ukrainian territories as Russian. And I think at this point, all sides understood that this is an absurd demand on the Russian side. That's why J.D. Vance said what he said today.
Just as we end, Irina, because I've got to let you go to bed. It's after 1 o'clock. But that is my last question. Will you sleep a bit easier tonight? What are your arrangements? Do you know, in the sense of whether to take the Russians at their word? Are you able to sleep in your home tonight, or with one thought on the shelter? What are you going to do?
Well, I'm trying to sleep as normal, but I must say I'm a bit worried because we've been warned that there might be increased attacks, and we should be careful and go to shelters. And judging from the previous night, I'm not very optimistic about the so-called 3-day ceasefire, knowing also Russia's greed for demonstrative attacks ahead of their holidays, so-called holidays, and especially the Victory Day, which is super symbolic for them. They monopolized the memory of World War II. So I'm anxious, but I'm prepared to run into the corridor or even to the metro, which is a few minutes away. But I just hope that we can sleep at least tonight.
Okay, well, certainly on my computer system here, Irina, for the past few days, weeks, months, there are alerts all the time about sirens going off in Ukraine at some point. There are none tonight in the past hour at least anyway. So I'm touching wood, but all may be quiet just for now at least. So thank you very much for talking to us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night, Irina Matviishin there. So it's after 1 a.m. in Kyiv. She's off to bed. I say there are no indications yet that anything untoward is happening in and around Ukraine. So we'll keep our eye on that. But that unilateral ceasefire called by Russia is an hour and 15 minutes old. And what we mentioned the reason for the ceasefire as far as Russia is concerned. They're celebrating 80 years since they defeated the Nazis. I just got the front pages in front of me, and quite a few of those tomorrow symbolically touch on that, because it's the exact anniversary tomorrow, May the 8th. The Mirror is perhaps the most powerful. They've done this before on pertinent anniversaries around VE Day. They recreate a cartoon that was published on VE Day in the Mirror when it initially took place in 1945, and it's of a squaddy standing on rubble with a bandage on his arm and a bandage on his head, and he's holding forth a victory laurel wreath with the sign saying "Victory and Peace in Europe," and he says, "Here you are, don't lose it again." It's immensely powerful, and that is the whole front page of the Mirror tomorrow, where they say learn from the past and be peacemakers. There's a picture on the front of the Daily Express of two children in the rubble of London with Union flags. Homes were ruined, people had died, but there was a sense of hope in our small community. People knew there were better days ahead. They're quoting someone who was young during the VE Day celebrations. The Daily Star has a picture of Big Ben and Churchill statue